over 400 kilometers per hour, up to 12 G of force. 8 of the world's best pilots take on the same sky in a battle of speed, precision, and skill. The sky is the ultimate racetrack. AIRRACEX, unlock!
Hello everyone, and welcome back to Unlock, the official AIRRACEX Insider Show. We'll be going through all of the race updates, as well as taking a deeper dive into the exciting world of AIRRACEX and the passion that drives these amazing pilots. And joining me, as always, is...
Hi guys, it's Emily. Thank you for having me back again for this really exciting episode. Are you excited?
I'm excited. Of course I'm excited.
For every
Are you excited?
episode? No, yes, I am.
Are you excited?
Yes, I am.
We're excited.
Yes, we are. So, we'll be looking back at the results from AIRRACEX Race 1, which took place on June 28th. And we'll also preview what's coming up in Race 2. Ooh, scheduled for July 19th. But this time, we're also focusing on what the pilots themselves experience.
Oh.
What they experience.
Oh.
Not us, them.
Not us.
Uh-huh. Sounds exciting, right?
Very exciting.
Okay then, let's dive in.
All right, let's take a look back at the results of race number 1.
Okay then, so here are the qualifying results. How do you think, Bob?
Well, it looks like it's following the pattern that we might have expected.
Martin Schonke went through qualifying in first place. It's kind of been a while since he went through the quali in first place.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and when you look at the points there, he earned 8 points. So thinking about the series for the 2026,
this is big.
8 points is really big.
That's really big. But of course, in second, we see Yoshi. That's not a surprise, right?
Martin and Yoshi.
Right. But the newbies had a little difficulty, it seems.
Yes. Looking at Melissa's time, 81.233 seconds, you can see maybe she struggled a little bit.
Hey, we talked about how difficult this is. There's anything can happen going forward, right?
So fingers crossed for her next flight going well.
Toes crossed too.
So with the qualifying results, this is the tournament bracket. For race 1, okay, Heat A, we have Aaron Delu and Emma McDonald.
Okay.
That's an exciting matchup. And next, Heat C, we have Michael Tregivason and Yoshi Muroya.
Ooh, that's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, definitely.
That's going to be a tough one.
Definitely. And in Heat D, we have Melissa Burns versus Martin Schonke. As we said earlier, he went through qualifying in first place. It's going to be a hard battle for Melissa.
Big fingers crossed
for her. And then finally, Heat B, we have Juan Velade and last year's champion Patrick Davidson.
Oh, that we want to take a look at for sure.
And Heat B.
When the dust settled on the quarterfinals, the top 4 seeds had all come through. Fastest of the round, Muroya at 63.356, with Schonke and Davidson dipping into the 63s as well. A seriously high-level battle. The 2 rookies were beaten on time, but both are clearly getting faster. Watch for them for the next race on. Hard luck for Velarde. He gambled on an all-out attack, and if it had stuck, a semifinal place was absolutely on. And McDonald, with limited training time, the adjustments and modifications to her aircraft weren't quite there yet. Watch it. When all that comes together, she has proven she is a force to beat.
And after the quarterfinals, the 4 pilots who advanced to the semifinals were Aaron Delu, Yoshi Muroya, Patrick Davidson, and Martin Schonke. In the matchup between Aaron Delu and Yoshi Muroya, it was an incredibly close battle right down to the wire. But Aaron managed to edge out the win, eliminating one of the top contenders, Muroya. In the other semifinal, Martin Schonke faced last season's champion, Patrick Davidson. Schonke took an early lead and held it all the way to the finish, winning by a razor-thin margin of just 0.2 seconds. Wow. Then, in the third place race, Yoshi Muroya delivered a strong performance to secure the podium. And in the final, it was the young second-year pilot, Aaron Delu, who pulled off an incredible performance, beating the veteran Martin Schonke to take the Race 1 victory.
So we're racing at a new location this year, so getting familiar with a whole different terrain and objects and buildings and trees and the weather patterns with the winds around has been challenging. I got used to the other airport and bringing the track to a whole new airport. It's a whole different layout track, and remembering which gate to go through. So many challenges. It's a mix of a memory game, situational awareness, and just being able to stay locked in and loaded and execute. I sit down in a chair, or right before I go to bed, I sit and I just fly the track in my head over and over and over again. What that does, number one, it helps me remember which gate, like the sequence of gates, but then also work out the best strategy and then play different scenarios out. If the wind is coming from this direction, which way am I going to react and turn? What adjustments am I going to make? It's all about the mental. I'd say I maybe fly the track 10 times more in my mind than I do actually in the plane.
Wow. Okay, it's only his second year
Yeah.
of doing AIRRACEX.
It is.
And he wins the competition, right? I mean, that's seriously impressive. And running the track 10 times more in his
Yeah.
head than he's doing in the practice runs and in the competition, amazing.
Well, when you were hearing his words in the interview, he said there was a lot of challenging conditions, but he still was so focused, even in his dreams, before when he was going to sleep. Like, that shows, of course, his skills is obviously world class, but how focused he is in this race and how professional he is, it's really super impressive.
And how focused you need to be.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Next, let's hear from the last year's champion, Patrick Davidson, who finished 4th in race 1.
Race 1 was a bit disappointing. We have had some really unstable weather conditions, coming off the back of this 100-year flood, which has just happened in the Eastern Cape. So, the wind's been literally all over the place. So, we'd planned certain things and, had the foresight of being able to come in and have the wind in a certain direction. And, within the space of like 2 to 3 hours, the wind was shifting anywhere from 20 to 90 degrees.
In AIRRACEX, it's not just about speed. I mean, you have to think about the weather, and timing play an important role, as we heard there. I mean, a 100-year flood, and the wind's coming in every direction, changing in 90 minutes. And so even the defending champion can struggle in a moment like that. I mean, that just shows you that how competitive this whole thing really is.
Exactly. Patrick, we all know he has the skill. He's the champion last year.
Yeah.
And he's always shown extreme performances in the past, but still, he didn't have the luck with the weather.
And you
Really
can see the
unfortunate.
disappointment
Yeah.
that he had as well, which just means he's going to be coming back stronger.
Definitely.
Right? Yes.
I meant I had lots of timers because my times were so slow on the first flight yesterday, just saying. But I think for me the biggest difference between race 1 and race 2 is the high turn. So race 1 was quite demanding on the body. The high turns, you're carrying quite a lot of speed, and you're then obviously pulling right around the corner. So, for an explanation, a high turn, you would sort of having to get to 500 feet. So this part of the turn would be loaded on my body.
So each race has a different track.
Yeah.
Right, so that means that the pilots, the turns also change. Mm-hmm. Right, and that also affects the physical stress on their bodies too.
Exactly. So race 1 in particular required a lot of high G turns. Mm-hmm. He called it VTM.
Sure.
Vertical turning maneuver.
Oh, look at you.
High G turns. So, which placed an extreme amount of physical stress on the pilots. So, let's hear what some of the other pilots were talking about this new track.
Race 1 had a lot of challenges, and it was also quite a fun track as well. There was a lot of G involved with this track, so it was quite hard on the body.
Okay, G. They keep saying G, right? And I just need to know this. For the people at home, not for me, of course, but I just wanted to ask you, what does G mean? I mean, I can't really, I've heard the term before, but I just can't picture it.
It's simple. G stands for gravity.
Okay.
So it's a unit that describes how much force is acting on your body. You get it?
Well, so far.
Okay. So on the ground, we experience 1 G.
Okay.
1 G. Our normal body weight is 1G.
Okay.
Okay? A good everyday example is a roller coaster. Okay? So which can expose you to around 3 to 5G.
Okay.
And this is only for brief moments.
All right, well, okay, this is getting easier to imagine. We're getting there.
Yeah? In AIRRACEX though, especially in high G turns that the pilots were talking about, they said it's really coming to you physically, right?
Yeah.
Pilots can experience up to 12 Gs.
12 Gs.
12 Gs.
12 G. Okay, I'm not a math major, but 12 Gs. So if someone were, let's say, 70 kilos, yeah, so that means, what, roughly 800 kilos of force against your body?
Exactly. So
800 kilos? Like, that's insane.
Yes.
Emily, that's crazy.
I know. You can tell what extreme sport they are actually doing.
I have a hard time walking around with just 1G every day.
Same with me there. And to show just how intense that G is, we actually have a visual comparison. Want to see?
Heck yeah, I do.
Okay, then let's go. So this is Martin Schonke, as you know, a handsome, composed pilot, right?
Yes.
But under high G turns,
Oh my gosh.
You can really see how much force he's fighting against.
That is incredible.
I know. That's how extreme the physical load really is.
I love pulling Gs, and it's a very intense feeling, but it's also hard, it's demanding. When we pull up to 12 Gs, your body just compresses against the seat of the airplane. Now in summer that is very hot, I can feel all the sweat just flying through my face in the instant, in the moment I pull Gs.
And Bob, there's another thing I'd love you to know.
Okay.
G-forces don't just push the body to its limit. They also become a crucial part of race strategy.
In race 1, I could see on one of the turnarounds, I just wasn't hitting it on the G load as much as Yoshi. And Yoshi was like, Yoshi straight to, what, 11 plus G. Whereas I was kind of backing off, playing it safe and pulling around 10.5. And that gave me a big lag in time on him, unfortunately. So going into the next race, I thought, you know what? I'm going to hit that G load quicker and faster than what I see Yoshi doing.
Wow, right?
Yeah.
So you can see G-forces aren't just physical stress for the pilots. They also provide important points for performance and strategy.
That is really fascinating. You know, and the fact that the pilots, they can analyze each other's data.
Yeah.
I mean, that just adds another layer to the competition.
Exactly. So for race 2, if you keep in mind the role of G-forces that we talked about in this episode, and how pilots use data against each other, you'll enjoy AIRRACEX even better.
Wow. So, I mean, looking back at race 1 and everything we learned about the G-forces, I mean, this series is on a whole other level.
And now that we have understand that, race 2 becomes more intense.
Can't wait. AIRRACEX Race 2 will be streamed on July 19th. So we'll see who comes out on top this time. You don't want to miss it. Make sure you don't forget about it. And that wraps up this episode of Unlock.
In our next episodes of Unlock, coming up on August 9th, we'll look back at the results from Race 2 and preview the highlights of Race 3. Stay tuned.
Don't miss it.